All right, so we've got our top made, got our legs made. Now the next two pieces that we have to make, we're trying to make them identical, are these two spacers. One here, our lower spacer, and then our upper spacer. So all there is to that, you've already done this kind of work already. So you want to mill a piece of material, mark the circles to the proper size, cut them out on the bandsaw, okay, like so. Then get a mounting plate on here, whichever lathe you're going to use. Maybe it's a larger lathe this time. Get that mounted on. Make both pieces to a circle. The largest diameter works better, so keep it as big as you can. And once you get both of those done, then we will start laying out where the notching for the legs is going to go. So get these turned on the lathe, sand them. Try not to round them off. We want them square actually on the edges. Once those are sanded, then we'll take the face plates off and we'll get ready to cut the notches. All right, now we've got our spacers done on the lathe, so they're all perfectly round and the same size. Now we have to lay out where the notches are going to be for the legs. You should have already done this on paper, kind of a dry run. So we've done it on paper. Now we're going to do it on the wood. So we're going to use it, do a very similar process. You might run into a couple little problems. One would be finding the center of a circle. It can be a little tricky. So we have this tool right here. It's called the center finder. It's hanging up behind the lathe. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's really handy. So the way it gets used, you take it. We want to use this wide grip right here, I guess we could call it. Put that right up against the spacer. Draw a straight line right in there. Remember, we're trying to find the center. Now we're going to turn it roughly 90 degrees and going to make an intersecting line, and there is your center. Okay, so what we can do, can continue those lines all the way across and all the way across here. Now, very similar to what you did on your drawing, okay, we're just right here. Now we're going to put in our 30-degree angles on the bottom. So we have a metal 30-60-90 set square on the tool rack. So get it and get it set up like so, just like you did with drafting. Make that line along there. Flip it. And make that line. You have to kind of extrapolate this to the center. So I'm going to just move that back a little bit. And there we go. This, actually we could extend that just a little bit so you guys can see. So we don't have to worry about this line anymore. We're not going to put a notch there. We're not going to put a notch there. We're not going to put a notch there. We're going to put one here, here, and here. Okay, so what we need to do now, we're going to have to draw those notches in. They're going to come in 3/4 of an inch. Now, this distance, the width may be different depending on how thick you kept the legs. So in this case, we kept our legs 24 mils. So what we have to do is we have to get on our line at 12 mils. Right there. Make a tick there. Make a tick at 24 right there. Do that up here as well. Tick there. And a tick at 24. Connect those. So we're running things parallel here, there. And there. Then we're going to measure up 3/4 of an inch right there, and 3/4 of an inch over here, like that. Now connect those, and that is now going, once we cut it, that's now going to be the width for our leg. So our leg will fit right in nicely. Just like that. All right, and once we mark all 3 of these out, we'll go to the bandsaw and we'll cut those out. All right, back at the bandsaw, we've got all of our notches marked. We've also identified them A, B, C, and that will be important later on during assembly. So, I'm gonna set our guard heights right there. Now, there's a process we go through on this. So what I'm gonna do, so I don't have to explain it with the saw running, I'm gonna cut in here, then I'm gonna cut in here, then I'm gonna cut diagonal, then all this will fall off, and I'm gonna cut diagonal across here. All this will then fall off, and then I'm gonna kind of nibble away this part with the bandsaw, a little triangular part. So it'll basically be 4 cuts to get the majority of it, and then about, I don't know, 10 cuts to get just a little bit remaining. So it'll look like this. The one thing I don't do is I don't have my hands up here. I have my hands resting on the table. In like that. In like so. Now diagonal. And draw lines, that way you have something to follow. All that falls away. Now go diagonal this way. Oh, that piece getting in the way. Let's get rid of that. Use your pencil to do that. Okay, don't use your finger, else that happens to your finger. That will ruin your day. Now we're just going to use the bandsaw, or just do a bunch of cuts. Just nibbling that away. Little bit at a time. If you want to try it, once you get a big enough opening here, you can turn piece, get the blade in there straight, and cut that off. And take a look at it. We might have to clean that up just a little bit in a couple spots. There we go. Now check and see if your leg fits in there. So we have A with A, and it doesn't quite fit. So we'll just take off a little bit off the side. Get in there and just take just a hair off. We can always take more off if we need to. It's hard to add on though. A little bit more. I'll take it off this side this time to keep things somewhat symmetric. You can see it's fitting here, but no, it's getting jammed. So I just need to take a little bit more off down here and down here. And there we go. And that's what you're looking for. So you want to do that to B and C as well, and then on the other spacer for the lower part. All right, we now have our spacers made. They're notched, they're sanded, they're ready to go. Also, it's really important, just mark them so that you don't have to, you don't get them the wrong direction and that kind of thing. So I'll put this as the top of the upper. And this one, don't mark it here because you'll see it. So bottom of bottom. All right, we're now getting closer to assembly. So one more thing we have to do is on the upper spacer, we need to put in the holes so that we can fasten the top to it. So we want to measure halfway between this corner of the dado, this corner of the dado, and find the center mark. We have 10 centimeters. We want to go to 5 centimeters. Assume things will be pretty close here. 5, and same thing here, 5. Okay, now this doesn't have to be dead on. Give yourself a mark like that, a little longer. Then measure in 3/4 of an inch from the edge. So right from here to here is 3/4 of an inch, make an intersecting line. Same thing over here. Measure in 3/4, make an intersecting line. And same thing on this one, 3/4. And here I'll do it this way so you can see it a little easier. And 3/4. And that's where we're going to drill the holes for the screws to mount the top. Scrap piece of material. We want to drill through, we want to make a countersink, so we want to go to the transition area. So right where that angle turns into that straight up and down part. That's how far we want to drill in. So there. Let's do this one. And this one. All right, then we have to put a through hole in them, then go all the way through with a 3/16 clearance hole or through hole, same thing. And there we go. So now the screws will fit in, and since we're here, we might as well talk about the screws you're going to use. Basically what you're looking for in all situations is that you have about 3 or 4 or 5 threads sticking out. So this one would be too long. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a little bit. That would be too long. Plus it might go through the seat. So let's go to 1.5 inches. Let's see what that looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. We can live with that. Okay, so that's for the top. So once that's done, now it's time to drill to fasten the legs. So let's start with A, right there. Put your spacer in the vise, having the top of the top facing you. Okay. Put that down pretty close to flush. Just set it in there. That'll make life easy. And then we're going to mark this. So here's our leg A. We want to put it in this fashion, like so. It did fit in. There we go. Fits in there like that. Now we want to take our scriber and we want to make an indentation. So make sure this is all nice and flush and make an indentation. And then that's where we are going to drill the hole. So we're going to drill a 1 centimeter deep pilot hole. So right to that tape. Like that. Then we have to find the right screw. Let's screw that in. So that would be way too long. We've got like, I don't know, 10 threads. We want, around 5 or 6. Let's see. That's the 1.5 inches, and everybody's are going to be different. Okay, so that's not enough. That's 1, 2 threads. So let's take a look. It's probably a 2-inch in this case. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's probably better than going with this great big long one, which is way too long, and this 1.5 inches, which is way too short. So sometimes we have to put in a little more thread than we usually do. So in this case we're going to use 2-inch, and what you're going to do once this is all ready, put it in. Now put these screws in by hand, not with the drill. Tighten that up. Like so. We end up with that, and then we do the same with B. And then we'd screw B in, and then we do the same with C. Then once you get that done, then I'll show you how to do the lower spacer. All right, so we have the top spacer fastened in place. It's not glued yet. I'm going to show you that afterwards. Okay, this is our dry setup. So now we want to get the lower spacer in, so we have to coordinate. I like to work off of leg A. So I have my A. And what we want to do, you have to do some little wiggling around here at times. Okay, good. We're going to have a tight fit, and that's okay. Tap it into place. I'm not beating on it, I'm just tapping it in different places to gradually get it down to the right spot. So what we're looking for is we want this center of this hole to be in the center of our spacer. So right like that. So we have to manipulate them all. That one looks pretty good. This one, that's got to go up just a little bit. This one, that looks good. So we're in good position here. Tap those in, again, just tapping, not beating the heck out of the thing. That one's in, that one's in. Take your awl, that one, that one, that one. Now take your spacer out, and it's really important to keep your coordination on this so that this all goes back together the exact same way, or else your holes won't line up and the notches won't line up. And use a hammer, don't use a mallet. A hammer won't mark as badly as a mallet. That's a good fit. All right, get this out of the road so you guys can see. Now I'm just going to drill where my indentations are. That same amount in 1 centimeter. Again, really try and use the vices, you guys. It makes your life a lot easier. That way you can work with 2 hands instead of having to hold the project with 1 hand and try and manipulate drills and things like that with 1 hand. There we go. Pop that back in place. There we go. Pretty good here. A couple of 2-inch screws, and you might have to move the plate or the spacer around a little bit till that screw starts. There it is. Don't put it all the way in, just get it started. Then let's get this one started. Okay, I'm not putting any pressure down, so they're in the right spot. And let's get this one. Again, we still have wiggle room if we need it, but we don't. Okay, now we can tighten them all up. That. This one's pretty snug, but that's okay. It'll last a long time that way. Tighten that one up. Tighten that one up. And there you have the dry fit for the spacers. So we'll just stop right there for right now. Okay, so now we have our dry assembly of the stool, well, the legs and the spacer. Now we have to do the dry assembly with the top on. So you want to get the top centered. You don't want it all off to one side. That doesn't look very good. We want to get it centered. Now, this is a little tricky. Okay, so you want to measure off each leg. So I'm measuring, trying to measure it out here. So let's say here I have 2 1/8. I turn it, what's this leg look like now? 2 3/4. So let's go about 2 1/2. Now let's check this one. That's 2 1/8. Let's go to 2 1/2. Check over here on this one. So you might have to go around a couple times. And 2 1/4. So let's go 2 3/8 with this one. I'm kind of splitting the difference on them. So 2 3/8. Oh, bounced on me there. 2 3/8. 2 1/4. So if I go 2 and just 5/16 maybe, see if that's going to work for us. Again, you can do this in metric if you like, if that's easier for you. Okay, we're going to come over just a little bit. to go up there. And again, everybody's will be different because the tops are different sizes, the legs are different sizes, and I think we have it. Once you get it centered, take your scratch awl, make an indentation, there, there, and the last one over here. And also give yourself a reference mark, so you always get this hole lined up here. So we could go, I don't know, let's do a little star, star, star. That way we don't do this once the holes are drilled. So we can find our indentations. You can see them right here. 1, 2, 3. And drill in about a centimeter, a little less. And we checked this earlier. We need 1.5 inch screws, and we get the star lined up with the star. So I find the easiest way to do this, put all the screws in so they're poking through. Then kneel down and tilt this so that you can get everything just into the hole that it needs to go into, like that. Okay, we've got our star and our star. Take the stubby screwdriver so it fits in here better. Okay, that one went right in. This one is right in. And this one does as well. So now we can screw them all the way in once we get that third one started. It's kind of a tough place to get this screwdriver, but you'll get it. Let's keep working at it. It's the only one that's kind of tough that way. Can't have it all easy for you. Got to be some challenges. And the last one. And now we have our three-legged stool all put together dry. And the next part I'm going to show you is gluing. All right, so we're now ready to glue things together. So let's pop one of the legs off and just do one at a time. If you take all 3 legs off and the spacers are loose, chances of getting it back together in the exact same fashion are very limited. So just do one at a time. It'll work much better for you. So we'll pop this one off. Make sure you have a glue bottle, a wet paper towel, and a glue brush. Take that off. Now, in these notches, we want to get glue on all 3 faces. 1, 2, 3. So let's put a little glue on there, a little glue down there, a little glue there. And I may have gone overboard with the glue, but we can always take it off if we have to. Smear it around like so. I'm going to scoop a little bit up, get rid of it, just like that. All right, so do that to the other notch up here. Actually, I'll try and use a little less glue this time, but don't be too cheap with the glue. You want the thing to hold together. A little bit more in here. Bring that up. If you get glue on the top, it doesn't matter, but we don't glue the top. We have to leave it just on with screws so it has the ability to expand and contract a little bit. There, and we should be good. Remember, you have to work fast. The glue is drying. So we'll do this same process to all 3. Let's put this back in. And everything should go back together nicely because it just came out of there. Get this started, and you can see that screw's going right in, no problem. So it's in the right place. This one is going in no problem, it's in the right place. And again, use the hand screwdriver of this just so you can feel it. It gets tight, don't reef on it, or else you're gonna strip all the wood out of the pilot hole. You don't want to do that, or else there's no wood for the threads to bite into. There we go. Okay, so do that to all 3 legs. All right, and then we're gonna show you how to cut the plugs and put the plugs in there. And then that's going to be almost the end of it. All right, so now to make the plugs to fit in here, you want, in this case, I would use a piece of poplar and it'll blend in nice. So try and recognize what poplar is. There's a whole variety of woods on the short end rack. So let's take a look for poplar. There's a piece of poplar right there. Let's pull that out of there. And you can see on this piece, people have already been using it to cut plugs. So now we'll go get the plug cutter off the tool rack. All right, so grab the 3/8 plug cutter from the tool rack and let's go to the drill press and we'll get this chucked up. All right, so now let's put the plug cutter in here. And I do have a mark on here on how deep we want to cut it. Here, I'll make it a little darker so you can see it. We want to set it to this depth right here. Oh, pen's not working. There we go. Okay, to about that depth. That's how deep we want these to drill in. All right, so put that in the drill bit, in the chuck. Make sure you tighten this up really tight. Put that back. And I always like to have only about 1 centimeter between the bottom of whatever bit I'm using and the surface of the material. So loosen off the table and let's crank the table up. About there is good. Tighten the table so it doesn't move on you. Now we want to set our depth gauge so that we just drill in to this mark right here. Right about there is good. Set your depth stop. Do that again. Set the depth stop. And we're going to drill in that far. So nothing to it. Now that we're set, find some space, turn it on, and we want to set this one to about 800, and it's on the chart here. About 800 RPM. There we go. 470, 450, 420. We're okay as long as we're right around 800. All right, and let's just do this in one cut. One. And you can look in the book to find out how many you have to make. I'm not going to show you all this in the video. So make sure you've drilled enough for yourself. All right, once you've cut your plugs, now you have to get them out of the wood. So use just a blade screwdriver or a straight screwdriver, okay, to pry it out of there. And all you do, put it in there and wiggle it out. If you have better manual dexterity than me, you'll get it out quicker. Okay, so get them all out like that. Once you get them out, now it's time to glue them in to your stool. So I always like to hold the stool so I don't have to worry about it wiggling around while I'm working on it. So take just a little drop of glue, okay, maybe on that side of the opening and that side of the counter bore. Put your plug in. Now it has a small end and a big end. It's hard to see, but you want to put the small end in first. Twist it around, that helps to spread the glue. I like to put my grain perpendicular, or parallel, and I'll just push that in, and that's all there is to it. Wait for that to dry, and then we trim those down. Okay, so do that to all your counter bores. Okay, so now we've got our plugs all in, and they're dry, so now they're ready to get down to the same level as this. So what I want you to do, I actually want you to use the chisel kind of upside down. I want the bevel part, so this part right here, I want that facing down, but I want it level with your leg, just like so. Okay. What you don't want is you don't want this. This will tend to dive and it won't do a very nice job. You want to go with the grain. So in this case, my grain is going parallel with the grain in my wood or in the legs. So I'm going to go down and we're just taking paper thin amount off. So take it off like that. Just keep working your way down a little bit at a time. Almost there. Let's see. Okay, and we'll go down just a little bit further. I don't want to go down too far that I'm going to gouge the leg. Might go down just a little further. You go how far you're comfortable with. That's how far I'm comfortable with. Then take some 60 grit sandpaper. Block might work in there. I guess it'll work okay. I prefer to use a loose piece, and I'm going to sand that down until it's flush. Almost there. I can still see my pencil line, so still a little bit proud. Keep going. Little bit more. There we go. And then I would go through the process of sanding with 80 grit, 100 grit, 150. And that is how the plugs should look when they're all done. And that way people won't be able to see the screw, which isn't as attractive. So do that, and then we're pretty much done. All right, so we've got all our plugs trimmed. I've sanded them down to 80 grit. Now I'll sand my legs to 100. Should be good for this project. And then the one thing you want to do is you want to round off the edges of the material. So just have your sandpaper go around that corner. And that's called breaking the edge, and that just allows us to get a better finish on there. We don't have any splinters or anything like that. Do that to all your transition areas, break the edge. So once you've got rid of all your pencil marks, all your bandsaw marks, all your burns, and you've got rid of all the sharp edges everywhere, including on here and on the top, anywhere where you have transition edges on the inside, all these areas you want to get sanded. And then once you get it to that, then it is time to go and do your evaluation sheet and all your paperwork, and that is construction 1140 completed.